example, using PVP is perfectly safe, then I think caution is advised. And I think and it's one of the arguments, in fact, for using sperm slow, for example, rather than PVP, because at least that is a natural constituent of the cumulus matrix. So it shouldn't be harmful to sperm. We don't know whether PVP is harmful or not.
Okay, okay. And you mean to say that there has not been any publication which clearly says that there is some disadvantage, or that this problem occurs, whatever the problem occurs, if there is a prolonged exposure in the PVP. So
Yeah,
there's not been
I
any.
don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you would do that kind of study in mice. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't, it wouldn't be
Oh,
ethical to do that study in humans. But no, I'm not aware of any studies that have, pushed out that time frame to try and elucidate whether there is, in fact, any detrimental effect on subsequent offspring from leaving sperm in PVP for, an hour or two. I have a question on the chat. It says in the last slide you said to reduce the bench time. It means we have to perform ICSI as soon as possible after wash? Question mark, not to delay for much time. No, that really refers to the semen sample prior to sperm preparation. So you don't, so if you have men coming through for treatment, and let's say the one man has brought his semen sample from home, another man produces his semen sample on site, then I would recommend that you prepare the semen sample that's been brought from home first, because that's probably more vulnerable than a semen sample that's just been produced 5 to 10 minutes ago. But generally, we try to advise that you prepare semen samples within 30 minutes of production.
okay.
And that's why, of course, if you're doing a semen analysis, you should do a semen analysis within 1 hour of production. But it's even more important for treatment that you get those sperm out of the seminal plasma as quickly as possible.
Okay, so that means we need to. One thing is there that it is often said that seminal plasma, that's quite rich in antioxidants, right? And you must not keep the sample washed for a long time before it's used for actual ICSI. My question is, so see, there is a paradoxical condition, like at the same time we say that the sperm, once they are washed, and we get rid of all the leukocytes, we get rid of all debris, dead sperms and abnormal sperms, which are again the source of releasing ROS. So what is the best technique? So whether the sample should be kept as such before it's been used, or should we wash the sample and keep it until it is used for ICSI?
Yeah, so those antioxidants in the seminal plasma are there, I guess, in vivo, that they're there to protect the sperm from oxidative attack until at the cervix or the uterotubal junction, even more so, that select sperm preparation, select population of sperm has been separated from the seminal plasma. In vitro, however, that separation doesn't necessarily occur as quickly as it does in vivo. So even though those antioxidants are present in the seminal plasma, they're not sufficiently capable of protecting the sperm from oxidative attack. So in vitro, it's really important that you get the sperm away from all constituents that can reactive oxygen species. Once you've done that, you can put this to the test if you like. Once you've got a really clean sperm preparation, you can leave it on the laboratory bench, come back in over a week's time, and those sperm will still be swimming around very happily at a very high rate. So the key is to get those sperm into clean media, away from any of those constituents, and indeed away from any of the constituents of the separation media. And that's why two washes are very important. You completely eliminate any carryover from the density gradient media. If you do that, the sperm will be in the best possible condition. But again, only if you keep them at room temperature.
Okay, I would request my team, if they have any questions, you can please come up with your questions. And we have such an eminent speaker with us, and he is there to answer all your queries. So I think there is one more question.
Okay.
Anybody, if okay, so what is the important? There's one question, Dr. Fleming. So, what is the important parameter for sperm selection? Whether it should be the sperm morphology or it should be the motility? What is more important while selecting a sperm?
Sperm morphology.
Morphology, or it's the motility that we should keep in mind.
Unless it's a matter of gross sperm morphology. In other words, if you had a very large or a pin-headed sperm, which are clearly likely to be aneuploid. In fact, the evidence suggests that good sperm motility is correlated with lower rates of aneuploidy. So if anything, that may be a more useful marker. Sperm morphology, if you look at correlations in terms of time to pregnancy within 12 months of couples, and you look at things like sperm morphology and motility, these kind of things, the no individual parameter is predictive, but if you combine the total motor, if you combine the concentration with the motility, that actually is predictive of pregnancy outcome. So in a sense, it's probably no different with ICSI. The morphology is probably going to be the least reliable parameter, and it's going to be the sperm, concentration is probably not as important with ICSI, but it's so what are you left with? The sperm motility. So I would always choose the most motile sperm for ICSI because the evidence does suggest that those are less likely to be suffering DNA fragmentation and aneuploidy. But there's no substitute for selecting sperm based upon whether they are actually likely to have fragmented DNA or not. Because ultimately, as we started out the talk, they may look perfectly normal, they may have perfectly normal motility and morphology for that matter, but in fact the DNA within the sperm nucleus may be fragmented. And I think that that's particularly a problem in those couples experiencing repeated implantation failure and recurrent pregnancy loss.
Okay, so you mean to say that although motility is important, but morphology is also cannot be overlooked, right? So
no, because the morphology doesn't.
Morphology. What we want is the DNA. Basically,
we mustn't confuse morphology and the relevance of morphology for binding to the oocyte in IVF or in IUI. In ICSI, the sperm doesn't have to do that. So in ICSI, the morphology is actually less useful to us.
Okay, that's useful. And there was one more question. Just to know, that's regarding your DNA defragmentation test. So, what is the criteria? Like in Australia, what is the normal criteria? Do you put all the cases for DNA fragmentation, or it is after that maybe in the cases of RPL or RIF only you suggest the couple to go for a DNA fragmentation test?
Well,
DFI.
there's no uniform agreement, unfortunately, in Australia. So some centres may do it routinely for all patients. Other centres, as you pointed out, may be more concerned about that in patients where there's litigation. There may be a problem with the DNA integrity of the sperm that they're using in treatment.
Okay, so it's not that you don't normally you don't put with them on any DFI or DNA fragmentation test.
I would say if you looked at most centres in Australia, that would not be routine. No.
Not right, right. Uh, so I think your session was so interactive, such a nicely drafted, and it was so informative that I think most of our questions they have been answered there and then only. And I really thank you once again for
Thank you
giving
very
your
much.
precious time and your views on this concept lecture.